Okay, welcome back to the stream. Last time we left off, I was having some bugs with the inventory, and I was able to fix them. It was a simple index off by one issue. So now the characters actually drop the rocks properly. I also made a couple other improvements while I was fixing that issue. The first interesting improvement is I added some gizmos that I can turn on and off, and what these let me do is see the characters in the simulation that aren't being rendered. So these red vertical lines are the other people in the simulation that are being discretely updated, and this is kind of just like a visual way that I can see what's going on. So I just sped up the speed of the simulation, but you can see all the red dots are moving, and basically those are all the actions and characters happening off screen. So this will be useful, so I can kind of see how the whole simulation is happening. And previously I had that capability, but it was really messy, and it kind of stopped working. So I created this class that just handles different like debug rendering. So this draw population method just goes through the entire population every frame, and it draws like a line where the person's positioned, and if they're being rendered, it also displays some information about the person, and then if they're not being rendered, it just draws a line where they are. And to do this efficiently, I started using this asset called ALine, which I recommend. It's only $20, and it's way better than Unity's debug drawing, and it's very similar and pretty easy to integrate with. So it took me like an hour to change all my like Gizmo Unity methods over to ALine, and the performance is a lot better, and there's a lot more capabilities and functionality it gives you. The other improvement I made was I want a way to visualize the database that is kind of like created from the level. So I improved kind of like the performance for this. Let's see. So if I click visualize database, I now get this like red circle that I can drag around, and what this does is it draws little like gizmos for all of the objects that are saved in the database. So I found it was too slow to try to render all of the locations at once for this entire level, but if I only render the ones that are like within this sphere, it's pretty performant. So this is like a way I can debug the database and make sure that all the metadata that I want to save about the level is being properly saved. So here we have like tables, chairs, and then this little like line is like an animation location for this chair and the type of animation that should play when the character interacts with it. Whereas like this location here has a different animation. So the other thing that's good about this is if I like change one of the actual objects, I do need to resave the database, basically bake all the information to a file. And that takes a few seconds because it parses the entire scene. But if I hit visualize again, we can see that like the location actually changed as well in the database. So this is slightly more usable than it was before. And I'm also using ALine for that. And it's again just a pretty simple like function, just iterating through the game database, and rather than rendering everything, I also do a distance check. So if I got rid of this distance check, we would see everything, but it'd be super slow. Yeah, but now the editor only works a few frames per second for me. So another thing that's been bothering me that I want to fix, and probably what I'll work on right now, is ever since I switched over from Unity's URP render pipeline to the HDRP render pipeline, the reason I switched was just I have a better computer now, and I want to take advantage of it and try to use the high def render pipeline to have slightly better graphics, things like better post-processing effects and better lighting. But the one thing that Universal Render Pipeline supports that HDRP doesn't support is camera stacking, or like camera overlays. So one of the issues is my UI, like I can have UI elements that overlay on the entire scene, but the UI that's rendered in world space, like in the game space, it gets occluded by geometry. So it's not like this person is being rendered on top of the UI, which isn't great. And I couldn't find an efficient way to do camera stacking with the high def render pipeline. So I'm thinking of just refactoring my code right now, because I don't really care about the UI that much, to actually use ALine as well. And I know ALine's mostly meant for like debugging stuff, but I don't want to spend the time building like my own UI code right now, because I could, rather than rendering things in world space, I could convert that UI to screen space and then scale it and position it in screen space as if it were in world space and have like an efficient UI. But I don't really want to put in the effort for that because I don't know what I'm doing with the UI and what I want it to eventually look like. So I think it'll be throwaway work. So right now I just need a simple way to make sure these basic things render on top. So I have a couple controllers, I think. So there's this mono behavior called talk controller, and what does it do? So it uses Text Mesh Pro components, which is like a pretty good UI that comes with Unity now. But I'm thinking of getting rid of this and just using ALine text instead. So I think I'm going to try to get that to work. So this code right here can definitely go away. This was basically, I think, positioning the canvas relative to the character's position. Don't think we need that. This code here hides text after it's been displayed for a while, or if it's too far away, I think. So I think the first thing I'm going to try to do is just make sure I can render ALine labels how I want to. So I'm hoping that this is all I have to do. Just get a reference to this draw command builder and then draw a label at a position with some text. And okay, it looks like it's working. The text is way too small, but other than that, it looks good. So also going to change the position to what I was using before. So it seems to be working pretty well. So I'm just going to remove the text mesh pro code since we don't need it anymore. But I'm going to try to keep everything else pretty similar. So I think that's all that I need to do. So yeah, it seems to be working. The only thing that doesn't work is color, different colors. So previously I was using like a rich text syntax to change colors, but that's not working. Um, I also don't need this anymore, I don't think. So here I'm just gonna turn off the canvas since we don't need it anymore. I'm not gonna delete it because I might use it later, but now the hello world shouldn't be appearing on everyone. Also gonna remove the color that gets added. So it should look better. Okay, this is exactly what I actually want. I have one other UI controller that I need to update, and basically it's this um, like hint controller, and what the hint controller does is it gets nearby objects and it finds the nearest one. So you can see as I move between these two tables, um, the action that will happen when I press the F key changes by what I'm closest to. Um, and you can kind of see when I have this debug on, there's like a red line here, and that's the closest interactable. And this code is still using like an old UI like canvas, and I'm gonna switch it over to use the ALine uh, like debug drawing feature. And again, this is not what I envision the end game will use at all. This is just like a simple fix for now. And there's a lot of repetition here between these two UI controllers. Um, this could definitely be refactored, but right now it's not worth the effort. So I'll just do like the exact same thing. And this one's even easier. Just do this. And I'm going to turn off the canvas UI stuff for this controller as well. But this doesn't seem to be working, actually. That's not good. I think it's because I don't have an update loop, now that I think about it. This controller, let's see, render text, show. It's not a good error. Looks like Unity crashed. This can be cleaned up. Okay, cool. It seems to be working. The only thing bad about this is it's not. It's not centered. The center is like the left alignment. So I'm wondering if there's an option to do like center alignment for this alignment. Okay, yeah. Middle left. Let's see. When we want just center, I think. Maybe like top center. Whereas I like middle left for the talk controller. Awesome. Having like a shader highlight or like outline for objects and characters might be useful as well. But that's more effort that I'm willing to spend right now. Just having this label is good enough. So the next thing I want to think about implementing is having 2 minecarts and having the players fill up the nearest minecart, but if the minecart is full, not not using that minecart and maybe going to the next minecart. And then I could create another behavior that's like, if there's a full minecart, push it to some location. Thinking this could be like a useful thing to be able to do in this system. Let me just update the database. So now we have 2 minecarts, kind of like saved as scene information or location information. But rather than having like an infinite minecart, it might be good to have minecarts fill up. So to do this, we need to make these locations actually smart. Like, they have to be controllers that can remember state and also offer like functions that other objects in the game can call. And this data isn't something that exists in a database. It's something that happens at runtime. And the challenge I always have with Unity is like trying to adopt like model view controller pattern. It doesn't always, sometimes it's a lot of work to do something like that. And usually people just end up creating mono behaviors that handle like the visual elements, like rendering it, but also all the logic, like mutating variables and holding state, which is certainly the easiest way to do it, and it can work. So I think I'm just going to naively make a mono behavior that controls state and link it to the graph database. We'll see how that goes. So let's do it. And I'm again just gonna take advantage of using this ALine drawing library to draw like UI elements, because it's easy. So each mining cart is going to have a capacity, and like a current size. And I'm just going to render how many resources this mining cart can hold. And we'll just do that by doing, say, so current size over the capacity is what we'll display as the text, and display that at the current position. Because mono behaviors don't have constructors, we'll set the capacity value here, and we'll say it can hold 5 rocks. So yeah, this take might have problems if we go below 0. I'm not really sure what these functions are going to look like right now. So for now, this is fine. Still haven't figured out how the game is going to interact with this, like other characters in the simulation. but should be good. So I just want to make sure the text renders above these mining carts first. So easiest way to do this is on the prefab, I can add this mining cart controller, save it, and now anytime a mining cart controller exists in the world, it will hopefully show the text. Now the problem with this is if the game object gets destroyed, we lose all the state on these mining carts, which isn't good because the way I'm building this game is objects only are loaded, like the view or the rendering part for an object's only computed or only exists when you're near it, and if you go far away, I might have these objects disappear. So, for example, like all these objects, they disappear when you go far away. So, and then now they're loaded from a pool. So if I'm using pooling here, I cannot actually keep state on the controller. So I would have to actually store these somewhere else, and this would just be like an interface or like a front end for interacting with the data. So I might be refactoring this, but we'll see how this evolves. Let me first figure out how characters can interact with this thing. So we need a way to convert from the database to one of these. So I think it's here. How I currently store locations is I have this there's a serializable data class that stores things like position, location type, and anything else that I want to be serialized. At some point, I might split this up so there's different types of, like rather than having these values be null, there's different types of location data, and the serializer understands that. But for now, I'm keeping it simple, and anything in the location graph has these. This can be, some of these can be null if there's no animation for this location. And this all gets serialized to a JSON file. So let's take a look at one. So it's hard to read because there's no pretty printing or spacing here, but this is like the JSON file for all the locations in this scene, and it is parsed at runtime when the game starts, and it's parsed by this it's parsed by, I think, this class into a list of graph nodes, where a graph node has a location data, and then that like data is given to this city query engine, which basically is just like a high level abstraction where we build a bunch of different data structures and indexes for the data so we can search it and make more queries more easily. So it's kind of a mess, but two useful indexes are given a location type. We have a KD tree data structure for all those locations in the game. And there's also there's a lot of replication here. Like there's a lot of duplicate data, but in reality for a game, this is not that much. Like this is maybe like 10 megabytes of RAM. So holding this in memory is no problem. And these just support like easy lookup. So using the KD tree, you can do things like give me the nearest like location. So so like this command here, this function, find nearest graph node. You give it a location type, so you're like, hey, find me the nearest restaurant from this position, and with a pretty efficient query, you can ask the KD tree for that location type to give you back the nearest position, which is pretty good. So this is like super efficient, easy way of indexing the data. And let's see. And we have different mappings, so we can kind of like go between these different types. So this dictionary here is a mapping between location ID to graph node. And this could be a way of mapping the runtime controllers to like the graph database and vice versa. So I actually already do that for doors in the game. There's a door manager, and basically all it is a list of it's a mapping of door controllers to location identifiers. And basically if I have a door controller, I can get the location, or if I have a location ID, I can get the door controller. And this works. And these doors are actually spawned from a resource pool as well. So rather than having Unity, I guess, remembering all this information, it's pretty easy if you have them all in memory somewhere, a list of like door controllers. Granted, I haven't completely split the mono behavior part away from the data here either, just because I haven't had a need to yet. But as soon as I do, I can do that. So I have a feeling after I implement this a couple more times, I'm going to refactor all of this code to something more generic, where it's like a generic mapper that can map, it stores data, like runtime data for locations, and it can map between the database, the static database, and the runtime like Unity views. And I can probably end up reusing it for like any type of mining cart or interactable object in the game that needs to remember state and also be something that the game engine can search for easily. But I try not to build things until I need them because I end up usually building them incorrectly. So the more information the more like use cases I have before I try to write that code, the better. So I'm not going to try to pretend that I can write that code perfectly right now because I don't know what it looks like. But back to the problem at hand. So easiest way is if this mining cart controller also had a location ID, we could go between them. So I can take advantage of the fact that there's a scene locator script attached to this component, and there's also a mining cart controller attached to the component. So like super hacky thing that could be done is just this. And this get location index hash. So all location identifier is, at least what I currently have, is it is a you take a string and you get the X, Y, and Z position, and then you get the type of location, and you just do like a SHA hash of that string. And because the hash space is so large, these are basically going to be unique, even if objects are very close together, and they are something that's like, I think the word's like deterministic. So it's not like a random number. If like it can be recreated elsewhere in code without having like a dependency on some UUID being stored somewhere. So I don't know how long I can take advantage of this, but for what I'm for this, it seems to work pretty well. So basically, when this is called at runtime, this should generate the same hash code that is saved to the database. As long as I don't like move this mining cart anywhere. So like if I move it, let's just see. If I move it, the hash code for this mining cart, like stored in the database, will be obviously different than this. But if they line up within like a very small, precision error, they'll generate the same hash code. So that's how it'll work. And obviously, a valid question is, well, this only works for static objects. What about dynamic objects that like move in the game? And yeah, that's a valid point. To do that, you actually have to like at runtime generate the link between the two, which is another system I'll probably have to make at some point. But for now, I don't care. So, yep. All right. So what this means is this mining cart has a location identifier. And again, another super hacky thing that I'm going to do, because who cares for now, is I'm going to create a static dictionary of location identifiers to mining cart controllers. So we'll call this location to mining cart controller. And when this object awakes, we're just going to add it. And yeah, that's super hacky, but this means if I create 100 mining carts in the game, we have this static variable that we can talk to in other parts of the code. And statics are absolutely horrible. Like, you should not use them, but I'm using them because I'm literally trying to write the littlest amount of code to make this feature happen. And then I'm going to refactor all this into something more reusable that I think will be long-term a solution I want to use. And refactoring this is pretty easy. So what we can now do with this code is in our game, so we have I think we have an action for depositing ore. And if we change this constructor, because when we deposit ore, we need to know the mining cart controller. So when we do this action, we need to have a mining cart controller to be interacting with. So we can just do this action has a dependency on a mining cart controller, and when we drop the item, what we can do is just call the mining cart controller's API and say put. And put does is just increment the current size by 1, which means we should see that number increase. So now we just got to look at the code and see where we're breaking. So when we create a new deposit ore action, it now requires a mining cart it requires a mining cart. And the other problem, the way this code's written, is you don't actually know the mining cart location. I don't think. You get that from this location query, which doesn't happen right away. This happens, it's like a deferred query. And I'm not sure if I like that, but the reason this was done this way is there's no guarantee what the query will return, because it's like some objects could like be in use, and the outcome might be different. So there's two ways to do this. First one is change this go to an action to take in a special type of action that has a deferred constructor. So I'm thinking that might be the best way to do it. So the other way of doing it is, let's see, is if you know the location ahead of time, you can just give it here. But I don't think we're always going to know the location, because there could be lots of locations, and the search might have, there might be other stuff happening in this go to an action that would change which location ultimately gets chosen. Like if another character reaches it first or something, or if that location is no longer good, like maybe that mining cart is empty or is full. So it was like, imagine the case where we have this abstract, like high level thing, like go to mining cart, but it takes the character a minute to walk to the mining cart, and by the time you walk to the mining cart, that mining cart is full of ore, so he should have walked to a different mining cart. And I guess my point is, we don't actually know, we wouldn't be able to construct this object at this point in time. I think we need to like defer the construction to a later point in time. So I think we can do that just by changing the interface here. So I'm going to come in here to actions, and we have an interface called goal action, and I'm going to create another interface, I think. Maybe not even interface. Start with a class first. So deferred goal action. And another option is to cache the location in like a container. And if you write perfect code, the location won't be null when you use it in another part of code that doesn't know about it. But I think that's like a risky pattern. It's something I've used other places in the code here, but I kind of want to get rid of it. So I think this idea of like a deferred action is a good idea. And actually, I do want an interface. That's my bad. Call it so interface is going to return a goal action, but it takes in a scene location data. So that's the interface. And we'll just call it create G action. Create action, we'll call it that. And now I'm going to create let's see. Default deferred action. It's going to implement this interface. Public. And a constructor for this. So my intention here is to make something that we can handle all the cases where we don't care about this scene location data. Like it's not necessary. So this is just going to take in a goal action, or sorry, an action. I always get confused if action's a keyword in C#. It is, I think. So private G action. And here we just need to adhere to this interface, this deferred goal action interface, but we actually don't use this because not everything is gonna need that information, and that's fine. So this will be super useful. Now the one we actually want to use for our case is the mining action. So I'm going to copy this and call it go to actually sorry what did I call it? Deposit or deferred. Call it. And the cool thing about this is deposit or deferred. Let's see. Doesn't actually need a constructor. And doesn't need this. It's just gonna say return deposit or, but you're gonna give it this, I think. Sweet. Although just one slight interface change here. You're not gonna get a mining controller. You're actually gonna get scene location data. We'll just call it mining cart location. And using that super hacky thing we created, that dictionary, gotta make it public. Yeah, that's fine. And we just do this. So pretty hacky, but this can all be cleaned up pretty easily. So return deposit or perfect. So the next thing to change is the go to an action. Rather than taking in the action, we're now going to take in deferred action. So deferred action, I think. And deferred goal action. And we already have a dependency on this like location container thing. Hopefully that can be removed at some point. But so the trick is here we say equals deferred action dot create action and give it person location. And this can be refactored more, but for now that's all that's necessary. So this should work. All that's left is all these other evaluators that we're using this go to an action goal. I need to slightly refactor them. So since they no longer take in a goal action or like this action, they take in a deferred action. I just need to create new default new default deferred actions. So, and this is like a no op. It basically just has a constructor, you give it an action that's already ready to go, and it returns it. And it doesn't do anything with this. But this way we have a consistent interface. So same with this. We just got to wrap this in this thing. So like that. Same with this one. Oh, that's my bad. This is go to mining cart. So here we just use the deferred one, which says construct this action later. Once you know the location, construct it. Whereas these are basically just pass-throughs. All right. So that's a lot of coding without actually testing or playing the game in a while, but I'm pretty confident this should work. Pretty confident. As long as it compiles. Which it looks like it did. So let's see if this works still. unfortunately we have some errors already. I think it's related to the mining cart. So it says an item with the same key has already been added. What did I? That's not good. I think I know the issue, but let me just look at the scene to see. I have a feeling we're spawning extra minecarts. Like, no. Yeah, there's only 2 of them. Just delete one to see if this still happens. An item with same key has already been added. Huh. How is this happening? Maybe static variables are being persisted by Unity every time you hit the play button. I think Unity added something like that recently. I forget where it is. Enables. I think it's this thing, but it's turned off, so. Reinitialize the game before making. Let me just try this. If not, I'll have to remove the static dictionary. Nope. I didn't do anything. Just turn that off. I'm curious. Let's see. Better say 0. But if it doesn't, what does it say? 0 is now 1. Why does this get run twice? I don't understand. There's only 1 mining cart. Hmm. That's really weird. The awake function is being called twice. I didn't think that was possible. It's gonna be super hacky, but I'm just gonna do it. So, in case this gets called twice, this code only run once. So let's see if this now works. No. Huh. And this thing, like, it's really odd. Interesting. So, switching it from awake to start worked. I don't understand that. I guess I don't know Unity's like life cycle good enough, but when this is on start, it only gets called once. Um, it's really weird. Uh, don't know why. I'll have to look that up. So yeah, no issues when using start. But let's see what happens. Awesome. So the number just went up to 5. So they put iron ore in there. So my goal now is to create another mining cart, and let's see. Put it here, so it's definitely far away. And let's save the database again. So we have 2 mining carts. And what I'm going to try to program is the characters should fill up the nearest mining cart first, and then once that one's full, they should stop trying to fill it up and go to the next nearest mining cart. So let's see. They're not going to do that now. They're going to fill it up. And they're going to keep filling it up. I'll just speed up the game a bit. Okay, so we don't want that to happen. We want it to stay at 5. So the mining cart controller it has an isFull function. So this could get tricky to implement nicely. So right now the code, all locations have this flag is in use, which is currently a hack. And yeah, it's not part of the serialization because it's this whole data structure, this whole like data class is opt-in for serialization, and this property doesn't get opted in, but still, like, it should be in a separate, it should be decoupled. This should not with a data class. But this is like something to clean up or refactor, I think soon, but hopefully not tonight, because I'm sure this will take me a little bit to refactor into a good system. I'm more just hoping we can reuse this instead. So basically, if the location has this flag is in use, and I also think find nearest graph node result equals search from start node, and so this is the actual like graph search logic. And does this do anything in use? So if the location's already in use, or perhaps this could be renamed to like not a search result that you want to use. Does this skip over those so it doesn't return the same result again? Fine. To do search from graphs. Oh, wait, what? Aha, okay, yes. When we search for results, we filter out locations that are not something we want to return in the result. So we have a way of hiding search results, which is good. But it sucks that it's a property of the data class. I can see at some point I had created like a claimable manager, but it looks like I removed that. But yeah, that's beside the point. I think what I need to do is I can actually just rely on this, even though it's super hacky. In this go to mining cart thing, deposit ore, I basically need to mark this location as like no longer, or make it, I need to toggle that flag when I put 5, when this is full. So let's see how that could be done in use. So it looks like I use this like container to do that in another action. And I want to stop doing this because this feels like a error prone way of writing code, but now that I'm using it in a few places, I can probably think of a better way of writing that code. But it looks like all I need to do here is basically if dot is full, so we're saying once you put your stuff, your iron ore into the mining cart, check if it's full. And again, this is all like, this isn't multi-threaded code. This is all synchronized serial single thread evaluation. So this is safe. I don't have to worry about another person putting stuff in the mining cart and their method running before this one finishes. Like, these will be synchronized, which is good. 'Cause you can write code like this and it's way easier to think about. And multi-threading for this is not gonna work because it's too much shared state. So yeah, this is all that needs to happen, I think. So they should try to fill this thing up first. And now that it's full, they should go to this one, I hope. Fingers crossed. Nope. Instead, it looks like they just gave up and they're like, can't put anything here, but I'm not smart enough to realize there's a mining cart over here. So why? I think not sure. So it says they're currently searching for location. So they're stuck in this search for location action. And I'm just looking at this like debug view where it tells me what evaluator they're evaluating, what goal they have, and what their current action is. And they're blocked on the search for location code. So what's this location query? I think I know why. I think my search engine, by default, it will only ever search the location query. The way this works is you give it a start node and an end node type, and it only searches from the start node. It won't search. Oh yeah, and returns one result, but the problem is in this go to mining cart, my start node and my end node are the same, which is basically means it's not going to do any searching. I don't think it's just going to find the nearest one and then stop. So the way the search works in this is it's hierarchical. Like it's each node has children. So I need to actually look at the database. And the reason I did this was for like performance reasons, right? Like this is a lower district type. So if I say find me the lower district node, I can then just search buildings under this node. I don't have to search other buildings in other nodes. Whereas here, the common node, the parent node is the city root. So what this would mean is actually are searching everything. You're searching from the root of the tree, basically. So to make fast searches in the game, these props should be like higher. They should be parented to nearby locations. So like if this was the lower district and this mining cart is in the lower district, it should be under that that tree. So because that's not the case, all we should have to do is say city root, and now this should work. So the search engine will be like, find me the nearest city root node, and then search it for this type. Whereas before it was saying, find me the nearest mining cart, and then search it for this type. And because the nearest the start node is the nearest node, and it's the end node, it just returned that. So this will be a slightly slower search. Should be negligible for this scene, but in larger scenes, I need to actually hierarchically, I can't say it, arrange the data so I can have really fast searching. All right. So this will fill up to 5. And now, hopefully they don't get stuck and they come to this one. Awesome. So that actually worked. But now for smart AI, it's like, why are you still mining if the cart is full? So the next logical thing to build is, if the cart is full, someone should empty it or like move it or replace it. And that would be like a whole other goal network or partial goal network to create. Because right now they're like stuck. They're like, I have no place to put this stuff, and I have nothing else to do in this game. I have no other actions as a miner. So, but I'm glad this actually worked. Like, I implemented it as easily in terms of like writing the least amount of code as possible. Not saying that's good. I'll definitely want to think more about these systems and make it something that could scale to the full game that I want to create. But I like to iteratively make progress and not just like have a final solution. So yeah, thanks for watching this stream. That's all I'm gonna do today. And I might also try streaming on Twitch in the future. Because I think it might be easier to get people to discover this stream on Twitch versus YouTube. But we'll see.